Okay, I think we are now live. It looks like the live is just starting up, and as people get in, hopefully my audio is okay. This is one of the first lives we've done on YouTube, so we are looking to do this more, and I cannot wait to do more of these informal settings where I'll probably give some updates on videos that are coming out soon, excuse me, but also give some behind the scenes of what's happening with me or my brothers, and also answer as many questions as I can get to. So let's see. All right, so yeah, it looks like people are starting to join. If you can hear me, just maybe if someone could give a yes, I can hear you. I think my audio should be working. But yeah, so this is our first, awesome, thank you. Appreciate it. And hi guys, so this is our first real YouTube live. We went live for the members once, but this is the first for YouTube, and we're gonna be doing this much more. This is just vertical live, so you get the vertical. We'll probably do some longer horizontal ones as well, but yeah, really excited to kind of connect with you guys in a more informal setting than our other videos. Answer any questions you guys have. I can see them start to appear. I'll try to get to as many as I can, as well as share some updates on what's happening, because there's a ton happening for me and my brothers. The most exciting thing is tomorrow I'm getting a big fish delivery, so that video will come out this week likely. I'm getting a new fish that I've wanted for the 500-gallon plywood tank. I've wanted it for a long time, and I cannot wait to get that. I'm getting new fish for my 90-gallon tank with the discus. I am revealing an update on my 180, which has less electric blue car in it now. I had a couple followers, subscribers from YouTube reach out, and they were able to stop by and pick up some of the electric blues. So I do now think I have officially populated all the Chicagoland area with electric blue car, which is kind of funny, but also really cool to see them go to some really good homes. But yeah, you'll see throughout the stream here, this is my Oscar enjoying the 500-gallon plywood tank along with the other cichlids, and everything's been going really well with it. But before we get into some of the more, I guess, behind the scenes updates on our fish room, I'll answer a few questions. So first, can I give info about my discus tank water? It's pretty straightforward. I don't do anything besides add the chlorinator with the tap water, and it's set at, it's right here, it's set at 83 degrees right now. But you know, I'm not one to give a ton of advice on discus, just because the discus I've had for the last couple of years never really seemed to thrive. And I think it was due to the actual company that I bought them from originally, which I'm not going to mention, but unfortunately the discus haven't done well. I have one that is thriving, but everyone else, all the other discus haven't. The rummy nose tetras and cories and everything have really done well in that tank, but much more to come on that. How many hours a week do I spend maintaining my personal tanks? So all these are my personal tanks. I have, I think, 6 big display tanks, and then 5 more in my fish room, and then a saltwater tank on my desk, and a beta tank, and a koi pond. So yeah, it's a lot. But I do have kind of a good schedule. I'll do a water change on this and my 180 probably once a week, maybe once every 10 days, and then a couple of my other tanks have live plants, so the nitrates don't get quite as high. I don't have to do so many water changes. In my fish room, I try to keep those tanks lightly stocked, so I don't have to do a ton of water changes there. I do have these flipper floats, so those are my easy maintenance. Basically just wiping down my glass panels. I do that every day, every other day, and it makes your tank look so much better without that biofilm or algae that builds up on the glass. Highly recommend the flipper floats if you haven't noticed by now. So yeah, I do spend quite a lot of time, but also when I'm maintaining my tanks, that's when I'm really observing my fish, making sure they're all healthy, maybe tweaking things in the tank by moving decor or changing out lights or filming content and teaching people how to maintain their own aquarium. So even though it is a lot of time, it's also kind of a win-win situation. Don asks, hey Troy, what's the best color light to use that will keep algae growth down? Usually I keep my lights with primarily white and blue. So maybe, so like the AI primes, I keep like a 20% cool white and maybe like 8% blue. And I think that makes it look good. It dims the light down a little bit so it's not quite so bright. Most cichlids don't want a massive bright light. Also, that will keep the algae down as well, and also keeping the period of time the light is on. So most of my tanks, I only have maybe 6 to maybe 8 hours on at a time, on a day, just because those are my primary viewing hours or when I'm filming content in front of them. And there's really no need to have the lights on longer than that, because that just creates some aggression with the fish seeing each other for longer and algae growing more consistently. Hopefully that made sense. But yeah, hello to everyone that has joined. It looks like a lot of people have started to flow in here. Again, this is our first live, at least our first live to the public on the channel, and we're going to be doing much more of this. This is just me, Troy, at the moment, but Quinn and Alec, the other two Cichlid Bros, will be on lives in the future as well, and we'll likely do co-lives or trio lives if we can. I'm not sure how we're going to do that, but we will. We want to do more of these informal conversations, be able to answer questions, and also give updates that are coming in future videos. So hopefully you guys enjoy this, and I'm going to get to as many questions as I can. But yeah, Melissa, I'm really excited for the new fish. I cannot wait. And then we have a hello, greeting from Iceland. I appreciate you tuning in. It's probably a little late, maybe. I'm not sure about the time, but yeah, appreciate you joining this evening. Walfred, thanks for joining. Appreciate you. And then we have another. Peter is from Belgium. So we have a good coverage from overseas starting. That's pretty cool. And anytime, Don, appreciate the question. And I see your comments sometimes on videos, so I really appreciate it. Almost, yeah, 11:13 in Belgium. So hopefully you're getting some nice, relaxing downtime watching the Cichlid Bros. But anyway, so I gave the update that I'm getting a fish delivered tomorrow, or fish delivery tomorrow. So there's going to be a lot of new fish for the plywood tank, for the discus tank, and I'm also making updates on my fish room. So I just set up the 20-gallon tank for the quarantine tank. That will be a part of the video. And then I'm also breaking down the shell dweller tank, which is a 33-gallon. I'm going to be breaking that down and setting up a 40-gallon breeder in its spot. And for that tank, I'm going to be doing a round of quarantining of new fish deliveries. So there's going to be more fish coming for my other tanks, and I need a slightly bigger quarantine tank. So the 40 that I'm going to be setting up will be for them for at least a couple weeks, maybe a couple months, depending on how long that period lasts. And then I'm going to be setting up that 40-gallon tank permanently. And I think I have a couple options there. I have gotten quite a few comments, people wanting me to keep 5-star generals. So if you think that's a good idea, let me know down in the comments. I've also considered doing some crebensis with maybe some other dwarf cichlids, maybe some zebra acara, which are awesome, and maybe some rams. So some of those smaller cichlids I've considered, but right now I'm thinking maybe the 5-star generals. So it would be pretty cool. Edward asked, when am I putting the stingray in the 500-gallon? So that will be happening probably in 2 or 3 weeks, I think. So the stingray has been doing incredible. It has really settled in. It comes up and greets me at the front of the tank. It is much more active than I thought the stingray would be. I thought stingrays would kind of hover at the bottom, maybe like sit at the bottom at times, bury themselves in the sand, but this guy is all over the tank. He's surfing the panels. He's digging himself in and out of the sand. He's awesome, and he always comes up to me, wants food, and eats really well. So I have seen that he's put on some size. I think he's at least an inch bigger than when I got him, and now that he's happy and eating a lot, I think it's about time to put him in this tank. So I'm probably going to move him along with my remaining electric blue acara, which will probably be 3 more, all in the tank together, and add the colony of electric blue acara up. And then I have a couple more fish in this delivery tomorrow that will be going in the tank as well. So it'll be like probably the finale. I say it's the finale of the series of the plywood tank because it's the 10th episode dedicated to this aquarium. And it's kind of like a mini Netflix series just on our channel. That's the intention I went into it with, even though we show the plywood tank in like more general videos all the time. So hopefully that was answered your question. And then Mike, hello to everyone. Yep. And like I said, for all the people that are just starting to join, I appreciate you hopping on. And if you have any questions, leave them down here, and I will get to as many as I can. And yeah, since this is our first live, if you have any questions about when we're going to be doing this or how these will work, just let me know. But for the time being, this is kind of just an informal conversation or answering of questions that we commonly get. So Peter said, got a week of special for some fish moving and new fish in quarantine. Yeah, so new fish is always the most exciting thing, not only for videos that we make, but just for our own hobby. Absolutely love it. And gonna be getting the package tomorrow with some fish I've wanted for a long time, including one that's really rare. And then some other dominoes will be set in motion, or dominoes will fall and set in motion all the other plants that I have down here in the fish room, because it's gonna look very different probably in a month. And it's crazy how many things are changing, but now that the plywood tank has been built and up and running for 3 months, the fish are doing good, the stingray's doing good. Now we can get all the other subsequent tanks in place and ready to go. So it's gonna be awesome. Zach said, did we get our flower horn yet? No, but if any of you haven't seen it already, the tour I did of Mike's basement flower horn fish room was incredible. It was probably the coolest fish room I've ever seen. I posted a video maybe 4 weeks ago. I would highly recommend you check that one out. But that got us really wanting a flower horn. Me and Quinn especially. I think Quinn's gonna get one for his classroom, but I still want one. So I haven't gotten it yet, but it could be coming up once I have all these other things in place down here in my basement. Mike R said, I'm subscribed to your channels and all the fish I got from watching your channel. Yeah, I absolutely love anytime I hear that. It makes the job or what we're doing very fulfilling to hear that maybe we gave you ideas or inspiration for your own tanks or entertainment at the least. But it's awesome, and good luck with your fish. But yeah, another big update is on Alex's basement. So he is going to be having a video come out soon, but if you haven't seen his recent updates, he added some new decor to his big 220, and that has Central American cichlids. And if you didn't stick around to the end of that video, he showed a glimpse of his red tiger moda. So it is a beast of a cichlid, and he has plans for that, as well as a new tank coming, or it's already at his house. He's setting it up right now, and it's going to be a really beautiful tank. It's in a nook of his basement that I think will be pretty unique compared to what we always do or have done on the channel already. So definitely stay tuned for that. And then Quinn just had a video come out on Sunday, and he got a new green tear for his classroom. So he is a little bit spontaneous and saw the green tear and had to get it. So he now has that in his classroom, his second green tear. And he has more updates coming on his classroom fish room because he's setting up another tank. I mentioned he's likely going to get a flower horn, but there's more tanks that he has to set up too, and that's just going to be growing. I'm probably going to be going over to his classroom to help him with a few things soon. He's only like an hour away, his classroom, so sometimes I go there for like bigger projects or moving fish and things like that, things that he can't do on his own. But yeah, so a lot is happening, and I can't wait to show all of that. But we got Watson's Aquatics. Hey man, so we just got done with a live on TikTok. I went live on TikTok for a little bit. If you don't follow us over there, we post regularly as well. But Watson's Aquatics was over on TikTok, and now he's on YouTube, so I appreciate you. Things are going well, and looks like things are going well with your setups as well, so happy to see that. But yeah, the plywood tank behind me is doing great. You can see the big ball shark. This guy is probably 13 inches. The Tiger Oscar is probably as well 13, maybe 14 inches. And this tank makes them look small because it's such a big tank. But when you get up in person, you can see just how big they are. And also, I've had people come by. I had Gordon from Aquarium Talk TV come and film a tour of my basement. So on his channel, you can see that. And when he was here, he said the plywood tank looks massive in person compared to on camera. And actually, it's something I've been trying to fix, is that in person or on camera, the tank not only looks small because it doesn't show the depth. It's 44 inches to the back of the tank, and my iPhone that I'm on right now makes the tank look a little more yellow, especially like when I'm filming for YouTube. So I tried to use my other camera more, which doesn't show the yellow color. I don't know why it's that way with my current iPhone, but if you see that, it's a little bit yellow vibe. It's because of my iPhone, but there's also a little bit of tannins. It's not completely removed yet. I do have chemical filtration, and water changes are slowly removing those tannins, but in person it looks really big and looks crystal clear, but hopefully it comes across on camera. Bahama Llama Coral, what's up, man? Hope you're doing well. I'm curious too, if anyone went down to Aquashella this weekend. Me and my brothers were not able to go this weekend, unfortunately, just because Alec and Quinn are both teachers and coaches, and they are super busy, especially with coaching. In Quinn's latest video, I showed him coaching his playoff football game, so we couldn't make it down to Daytona, but we will likely be at at least one of the Aquashellas next year, especially if they have it in Chicago again, which I think they are. Love the classroom setup vids. Thanks, man. Appreciate it. Yeah, it's been a lot of work, especially when we had to move Quinn's entire classroom fish room from one end of the school to another. But it was a long day. I was there for like 10 hours helping him move aquariums and set them back up. But now his current classroom is even better because of the setup that he has. It's much easier and better looking, and then there's more space for more tanks. So yeah, only the sky's the limit for his aquariums in his classroom, and it's just really cool that he's able to share it with his students. A lot of them have gotten into the hobby because of the aquariums, and anytime he gets new kids every semester, they start hearing about the aquariums and seeing them and getting interested. It kind of goes along with why we do a lot of what we do on the channel, is to educate, but also to inspire people to get into the hobby if they're not already. And so it's just been a win-win situation. We kind of lucked into having that situation with Quinn's classroom because, yeah, I mean, a lot of high schools don't have the space or the ability to let Quinn do that, but we've just been really, really lucky. Mexicali Fish Keeper, I saw footage from Aquashella and it looked like it was less attended than others. Yeah, I'm not sure about that, just because I wasn't there. I know some other creators that did attend, so I don't know exactly. Daytona for us is probably the hardest to get to because it's in Florida and we're in Chicago, and it's also like in November when a lot of school and coaching is still happening, so it's just really hard for us to get down then. But during the summer, like in August when they sometimes do Chicago, that's when we try to go. Nathaniel asked, how do I tell the sex of Malawi eye biter? Mine is silver and I'm unsure if it's male or female, about 7 inches. If it's about 7 inches and it's still silver, it's likely a female. Usually by about 4.5, 5 inches, you'll be able to start to see at least some color come in to show that it's a male. There are also some other like minor ways to tell, like egg spotting, but I would say it's probably a female if it's 7 inches. In the Box Aquatics, hey man, or I'm not sure if you're a man or woman, but hello, thank you for joining. Greetings from Texas. Yeah, awesome. Yeah, and like I said, anyone that has questions, definitely leave them down here and I'll try to get to as many as I can. What's the best cleaner fish to add with cichlids? So that depends on what cichlids you have, because you could do things like bristlenose plecos with some. So I have bristlenose plecos with my angelfish that are coming. Oh, that was the hint. I shouldn't have told you. I also have it with my geophagus and electric Lucara. That's a great cleaner fish. They're great algae eaters. Bristlenose plecos, great option. But if you have like Oscars and other things that maybe are too big for it or too aggressive, you could do things like, I mean, flagtails are like big cleaner fish. Basically, they just munch on algae all day long. Big cichlids, you could get bigger plecos as well, like the common pleco, but just definitely research which specific species you go with. Andrea said, "Oh, hello. Now I moved to YouTube." Yeah. Hey. Yeah, I mentioned earlier that I was live on TikTok, and now we're live for the first time on YouTube, and we'll probably be doing this much more often. This is just my first time doing it, and Alec and Quinn will jump on here. We've done it a lot on TikTok and Instagram, but figured we'd start doing it on here as well, just kind of have informal chats. We get a lot of questions on our videos and try to answer as best we can, but sometimes it's hard to give the full context. Like one of the most common questions we get is like, can I put this, and this in this size aquarium? And there's just so many factors to go through to really give a good answer. And we've actually done a lot of actual, like, real consulting sessions. So if any of you are interested in having like a one-on-one conversation or consultation, we do offer that. I just had 2 of them today, and just walk through what equipment to get, what size aquarium, what decor, what fish, that type of thing. Or even if you just want to chat fish, we do it all. So just let us know. You can either message us on Instagram that you would like to set that up, or send us an email. It's like cichlid.bros1@gmail.com. Or you can email us. I think a link is in our bio on YouTube. Is there any way to bring down the hostility of my firemouth in a cichlid tank? He killed a pike cichlid. Ooh, yeah, so I'm curious, Nathaniel, how big the tank is. Because a lot of times my advice would be, if you're gonna have some semi-aggressive cichlids, to get as big of a tank as possible and have plenty of line of sight breaks, plenty of driftwood rocks so that they can hide behind those things. But even with doing all of your due diligence, you could still have a rogue fish that is just really, really aggressive, because firemouths sometimes their bark is more than their bite, and they'll kind of flare their gills, but they won't really kill off fish in our experience. But if you have one that is, and you've done everything else, maybe it's just time to separate him by removing him, putting him in another tank, seeing if you could rehome him or set up a different tank. In the Box Aquatic says the puck lights are legit. Thank you. Yeah, I am so happy with how the Kessels turned out on this tank. So I have Kessels on my 150 across the room, and now I have the new custom lighting on here. So cool. They are expensive lights, but they are very worth it in my opinion. Yeah, real quick, Nathaniel, in a 65-gallon tank, that's kind of what I thought. So 65 gallons is kind of getting on the smaller end. If you have firemouths with a pike cichlid and others in the tank, I would say a 125 would be a much better success rate with those fish. So if you could, I would try to upgrade as soon as you can. And if it still continues to be bad in that tank, potentially try moving them and see what you could do. But yeah, the lighting, really love them. They are expensive lights. I do think they look the best of any lights that I currently have or have tried. It's an investment that I think is worth it. And I've had LED lights that have not worked after a year. You bang them one time and maybe a row of the lights go out, or they just look clumsy on the tank, or inside the tank they don't have the shimmer effect. And there's just a lot. I feel like it's hard to explain that unless you're in person. I try to do my best on camera to show the differences, but if you are really trying to upgrade your game on an aquarium or improve a tank, maybe you are looking for something to really put your tank over the edge, one of these lighting options I think would be worth it. Maybe you ask for it for Black Friday or Christmas, and it could be cheaper than what they are now. All things nature in Hawaii with Steve. Hey, how's it going? All the way in Hawaii, what would that be, like 10 a.m.? Very, very early. Thank you. Would you recommend mixing sand with small grain gravel? Trying to add a sevi. I don't know if that's a Severum or a Spini. But yeah, I think you can definitely mix sand and gravel. We've done it on multiple tanks before. It's kind of a cool thing if you don't like the consistent color of the sand or gravel. I always elect to go with sand in almost all my tanks. I think it looks the best, looks the most natural, and I never have issues. As long as you have good flow in your tank and filtration, nothing really accumulates on the sand. Like, I have not gravel vacked in this aquarium one time, and yeah, I do have geophagus, a couple of them in here, but they don't totally take care of that issue, and I do the same process in my other tanks, and the sand does not accumulate debris. As long as, like, wave makers are amazing for that. They add to the flow of the filters and bring that debris up off the sand, and I think it looks great. If you prefer gravel, that's fine, but for geophagus, some gravel, if you just do that, it could get in their mouth as they're trying to sift through the sand. So if it's geophagus, I would almost recommend just sand. But if you're doing more general species of cichlids, the mix of sand and gravel would be just fine. Wet Sleeves Aquatics, hey, thanks for joining. Fish List, that was hard to say. Thanks for the inspiration. Yeah, I appreciate that. I'm glad that we could give you some inspiration or ideas, hopefully, for your own tanks. Zach said, you inspired me to get a few fish I got, like the EVA, this spin eye, and the Kessel lights before it was on the film. All right, yeah. Let me know, comment on the Kessel video or whatever video, and let us know once you get the Kessels if you agree that they put your tank over the top. I think they will. But awesome to hear that you got into the electric Fluicara, geophagus, because that's obviously one of my favorites. Favorite trio of what I collect. Or I don't know, I said collect because someone else did. Oh, hey, we got Rambo here. Hang on one sec. Hey, there's Rambo. Say hi. Stop making noise. So Rambo is a Cichlid Bro at times. You might hear him in the background yelling, but yeah, if you're looking for a Severum, I would definitely recommend it. They're awesome. They're my favorite cichlid. Why no catfish in my collection? Well, I do, just not the monster types. I have a pleco in here. I have bristlenose plecos over there. I have Synodontis petricola in my African cichlid tank. I think that's all I got right now, but yeah, I mean, I have some. I probably will do some different types in the future, but yeah, I'm not really into like those monster type catfish, you know, that are tank busters almost, or even too big to keep in even like a 500 gallon. I have no real interest in that. Maybe at some point I will, but not at the moment. Have I ever heard of Asian cichlids? I've read them, but never seen them in real life. Yeah. Sometimes it's hard to tell like what has been mixed or hybridized over there. I mean, a lot of flower horns come from Thailand, but so do other hybrids. You know, blood parrots are super popular over there. But yeah, there's no specific cichlid species from there that I've had interest in yet, but I'm always open to it. Wet Sleeves Aquatics, what do you think of the AI lights? So, not sure if you mean the Aquilunation Prime 16s or the freshwater blades, because we have both of those. The AI Prime 16s are incredible. I love them. It's probably my second favorite light that I've used when you consider how much they cost and how they look and all the other things involved. I'm probably going to do a full review of the AI Prime 16s soon, probably this month, because I've had them for so long. I feel like I can give a pretty good overview and breakdown of them. They are about half the cost. Like one puck Prime 16 is half the cost of the Kessel. I do like the Kessel better in terms of the power, efficiency, and how they look, and the shimmer is slightly better. I definitely like the Kessel more, but the Kessels are double the cost. So the Prime 16 is a great alternative to that. It actually has a better app and controllability than the Kessels. The Kessel's biggest issue is you can't really control it on an app. You can use their Wi-Fi dongle, but it's another like $100. And then their app, once you have that, is not even that great. So, and it doesn't connect very well. The Aquilunation Ecotech app is called Mobius or Morbius, I can't remember, but it's actually really good now. It didn't used to be great with just AI's app, but they've updated it and now it's really good. So the controllability with the AI Prime 16s is a plus, and because they're cheaper than the Kessels, I would sometimes recommend that for some people. But if cost isn't as much of an issue, I would recommend the Kessels. The freshwater blade is the long LED light from Aqua Illumination. That is also very expensive. It's one of the most expensive LED lights, if not the most. I have that on my 180, and I have two on my African cichlid tank, and I do really like them. I'm gonna do another review on that light as well, probably in a couple months. Give that a little bit more time. If you're going with the best LED light out there, that's probably it. But it is really expensive, and I don't know if the difference between, say, like a Fluval Aqua Sky LED, which is maybe like $100, 120, versus a freshwater blade of the same size being like 300, 400. I don't know if that cost difference is worth it in that regard, but it's still a really nice light. I have it on my saltwater tank, and it's perfect for that. It makes my 180 look great. So I do also like the sleek look of it on top of the tank, because it's like really flat and thin, and it's gray and white, whereas most LED lights are pretty bulky, black. They even have those like prongs on the outside that are really cheap and come off the light. So yeah, long story short, I like the lights, but I realize they're also expensive. So hopefully that answered your question. Robert asks how my discus are doing these days. Yeah, they're not doing great. So I used to have a bigger group, and they just slowly died off over the last 2 years. And they all kind of had the same issue, where they just weren't eating all that great, and they just slowly wasted away. And I feel like it's some type of issue with just the discus in my tank, because all the other fish have been great. The rummy nose tetras are amazing. The zebra loaches, I mean, these fish have done great for years. It's just the discus that haven't. And I do have harder water. I do have hard water and a higher pH, which I know is not ideal for like wild caught discus. Discus prefer softer water and all that. But I really don't think that's the issue. I think it's the whatever discus illness I had with the first group that I got just slowly crept into the tank, and any discus I've added since then has, had that same problem. So I'm not going to say the company. You could probably find it in the video I did way back when, but I would never order for that company again or recommend it. So Ahmad said, do you think about the future of this hobby? Is it really getting less popular, breeding getting less profit, keeping fish is expensive? I mean, I'm not worried too much about that. I think aquariums are always going to be around, and there will be ebbs and flows. I know like during COVID, maybe there was a spike in people getting aquariums because they're home more or working from home. People may still work from home more, so they like the aquariums now. But things go in ebbs and flows, and I'm not worried about that. It is getting more expensive for sure, but so is everything. Everything seems to be that way. So most hobbies are going to be expensive. This is an expensive hobby. It always has been, and there are ways that you can maybe cut corners, but cut corners and save cost in some instances. But I'm not too worried about it going away anytime soon. Chaos Aquatic said blades are great for a deep tank. I would definitely agree there. Like the blades, the freshwater blades, I have my 2 tanks right now. They are both 2 feet deep, and it's so bright. I have those lights down at like 8%, and it is already almost too bright. So like, if you had one blade above like a really deep tank and you turned it up to 100%, I'm guessing it would be completely lit up. So it's a good point. Well, there's Alec. Coach Alec has joined the chat and asked if I lifted. That's nice of him. Looks like Alec got off school early and is doing nothing to help the channel. Mark said, do you still have the Cactuili aquarium monitor? If yes, do you like it? I do still have it on my 150. It's on the sump, and I do like it I use it for the temperature mostly, just to get like a quick gauge. If you walk by, you can see the temperature pretty accurate, and the pH is cool, but I don't use it as much as I thought I would. I mean, it's nice to know, like, I could put it in any tank and see the pH differences. I've used it for my saltwater tank a few times actually, but I don't use it a ton because my pH isn't changing, and I haven't had like massive issues with any tank with that changing. So if you are tinkering with your water parameters, I think it's a really good tool to have. But for me, I haven't really had the need, at least over the last like year. Yep. And then Jim said, "Hi, Cichlid Bros. How are the discus doing right now? I hope they're doing well. Greetings from the Philippines." Yeah, I wish I had better news. Like, a lot of people keep asking about it. You could see on my latest aquarium tours that I've talked about how the discus has slowly dwindled down, and yeah, just haven't done a great job with that tank. But there will be changes. You'll see in a video coming this week. I have a fish delivery coming tomorrow, which I've mentioned a few times, and that has fish for the discus tank, and I think it'll make it look really good. I also have a fish coming for this tank, and it is a big surprise. I don't think anyone's going to guess what it is, but it's going to be a pretty rare fish, but also something that's really cool. Can't wait to get you visit up to my way to show you. We have some awesome fish stores. So DP Aquatics, what area are you from, and what stores would you recommend? Let us know. Cooper is sitting in a tree stand watching. What's the best way to get your detritus out? So tree stand, I'm guessing because of hunting, deer season. That's funny though. Hopefully I'm not scaring away the deer or whatever. But best way to get detritus to the filter intake with wave makers. I've found that if you have the wave maker pointed and angled to the surface, it creates the surface agitation, which is really great for the aquarium. And also that additional flow, along with the filter flow that's already in the tank, that will eventually help pull the detritus off your sand. A lot of people would think you have to angle it down towards the sand to get it really off. But I found just even if you angle it upwards, it just creates kind of a vortex, and that detritus goes into your filters much better. If you bought a used aquarium and it came with old sand, would you clean and reuse the sand or buy new sand? I would probably buy new sand, just because I wouldn't know what that fish keeper had in there or what it came with. I guess I would look to see if the sand was reusable, but it's very unlikely they would have even like the type of sand or color that I would want. So I would most likely get my own. If you're trying to get it out of the tank, you could get one of the, like a dustbin, and just like scoop it up onto that. It's a pretty annoying process, I know, but that's one way to just get it out of there. Medina Cichlid said, "Love the Vieja in Alex tank." Absolutely. He's getting some Central American beasts, and he has more coming. Update video, I think, coming very soon. And if you didn't see the sneak peek at the end of his last video, he got a red tiger moda, and that thing is going to be a beast. They are aggressive fish, but man, that thing is going to be awesome once it colors up. Right now it's like in his quarantine tank, scared to death for some reason, and Alex said he puts in food, it won't eat, but then Alec will come back and the food's gone. So RTM is still in quarantine. Hopefully he becomes she becomes less shy, and he's considering putting that in his 220, I think, but not sure. Learned a lot from you and your bros. That's awesome. Definitely love hearing that. Anytime that we're helping out or doing the best we can to help or inspire or educate, so we love to hear it. Medina Cichlids had discus tank, had issues as well. Very delicate fish. Yeah, I think it so much depends on the quality of the discus from the source, more so than other fish. Because I think if you get good quality discus that are healthy to start with, they are not as hard as they're made to believe. But if you have discus from a source or a fish store that maybe already have issues, then it's like impossible to bring them back. So I would say they're more delicate when they come from a source that isn't reputable. So I would agree, mostly. DP Aquatics, upstate New York. Yeah, so we'll definitely be back to the New York area. A lot of things we would like to check out, film, tour. I was there 2 months ago for the Fins and Fury boxing event, but I was on Long Island, so and we were really wrapped up in that event. So the only thing we really did was I went to Predatory Fins to pick out my stingray, which was awesome. It was so cool to see that store. They had some massive monster fish there. It was crazy. But there are other things around New York we'd like to do, and I'll probably try to plan a trip out there very soon. Lone Shark 74, love the channel, Troy. Awesome. Appreciate you joining and watching, following along. Really appreciate it. Silent asked, would I ever do datinoids? Yeah, but I mean, I love the look of datinoids, but they get so big that I don't even know. I mean, I don't know if a 500-gallon tank would even be that great for them. But if I ever had something even bigger, yeah, it would be considered. Are the three of you interested in getting clown loaches? Yeah, definitely. So one of the things I have kind of in the works, if you saw towards the end of one of my videos, I mentioned the area over by my saltwater tank where it's my desk currently. I would like to get a tall custom aquarium, and that's currently in the works. And if I get that tank, it'll probably be 150 to 180 gallons. And I've considered like a school of clown loaches in that setup, depending on what else I get. So I've considered it for a long time of getting a school of clown loaches. Absolutely love them. It's just finding the right setup for them. So hopefully soon, but we will see. What do you think about keeping red-tailed catfish? Probably like you've seen out there, like they get so big, it's pretty crazy that they're even in the hobby. But there are some people that can keep them if they have a massive pond, if they have something that's set up correctly. Like you can see Ohio Fish Rescue has setups where it's feasible, but who else out there has that type of setup? I mean, it's like less than 1% of people in the hobby could do it. So whenever I see red-tailed catfish, like a tiny one that's super cute at a store, I'm like, I don't know about that. But whenever I was at Predatory Fins, they had thousands of red-tail hybrids with high fin sharks. I can't remember exactly what the hybrid was. And they will get massive. But the good thing about Predatory Fins is that they handle monster exotic fish all the time in such quantity that if anyone's going to sell them in the right way, it would be that. However, if you run into like a random local fish store down the street and they have red tails, I'm like, I don't know, that's probably not a good choice. Watching your stream from Los Angeles. That is awesome, man. Thanks for joining, Junior. And we're in Los Angeles a year and a half ago, filming some stuff, some awesome tanks in the area, but we will definitely be back to LA as well because there's more that we would like to tour, so much we want to see. So yeah, stay tuned for that. We have a lot of travel plans on top of just the big things we have going on here, places we would like to go. We would love to get to Atlanta, see the Georgia Aquarium. The Tampa Bay area has multiple places that have reached out to us and asked us to tour things. So the Florida Aquarium, we've heard great things about in Tampa. Imperial Tropicals is right there. Tampa Bay Cichlids is right there. There are a lot of things, a lot of tour videos I think that we'll get to very soon. Thank you. You have very good information. Rely on your videos for anything cichlid related. That's awesome. Yeah, we try to cover almost every cichlid you could think out there, and we have more that's coming out, more that we're going to be keeping, more that we're going to showcase on the channel so that we cover almost all those bases and we can be your go-to spot for cichlid content. Although that's not the only thing we do, we still really like planted aquascape tanks with nanofish or saltwater tanks and all that too, but primarily it's always going to be cichlid content, so I'd love to hear that. What do you think about using sulfur reactors as a solution for nitrates instead of doing water changes? I've never used one of those, but I would just guess that it does not pull out nitrates completely. And if it does help your nitrates, great. I would still recommend water changes. That's actually a topic I'm going to get to about water changes, because to be honest, I'm getting a little bit frustrated by comments that are pretty ignorant. People just like listen to one thing and then they comment about water. I'm not talking about this comment specifically, so just to clarify that. But other comments on other videos are saying we're harming our fish by doing water changes, or we don't know what we're talking about, all those things. So I'm going to make a video kind of in response to that, laying out everything you need to know about water changes and why you probably have to do them. There's only a small percent of aquarium setups that don't need water changes. And it would be if you have some type of upscale equipment that is pulling nitrates out, or if you have enough live plants, if you have a very small stocking, if you're not feeding much. But for 99.5% of setups, you're going to need to do water changes. It just depends on the percent and the amount you do, which you just test your own waters and you can figure that one out. So sorry for that rant. It wasn't directed at you. How to start dry shrimps for baby Oscar fish. I would just say any dry or frozen food, you can't really go wrong when feeding Oscars. I would just not recommend live food. Will you ever set up a blackwater aquarium? Probably. Always very interested in that. I was going to do that before, but I ended up setting up the cold water aquarium that I have in my fish room, so I'll probably do something unique like that in the future. You think, just some guy asked, you think chocolate cichlid or Oscar would be better with green terror, and what do you think of an Oscar with a fajaka? I can say that a chocolate cichlid would be a safer route with a green terror, because even though Oscars would work too, you could probably get all three of them. Oscars occasionally can be aggressive. Like, it just depends. Like, I would say 20%, just throwing out a number, of Oscars can be aggressive. But if you have a big enough tank, that percent goes less. So I would say you could keep all three of them. The chocolate would be safer as well. And then keeping them with a fajaka puffer, I can't give great advice on that because I haven't kept a fajaka personally, but from what I've read and seen, it could probably be done, but it would be safer not to. Lone Shark asked, do I plan on expanding more into the saltwater side? I know it, yep. So I do have the 15-gallon cube right now with the clownfish. I love it. I love the clownfish. They're awesome. I don't know if I'm going to be doing more saltwater in the near future. I just have so much more I want to do on the freshwater side, so especially with cichlids that I haven't kept. Some are rare. Like, I don't know if you've seen Riff Waters' channel. He has Madagascan cichlids, and I think those are so cool. Not only the Starry Night, but he has the more like rare types, and I would love that. So there's a lot that I would like to do, and that's why I think I probably won't be doing more saltwater, at least in the near future. Eli said, just got an adult Nicaraguan male, put him in a 75 with my green terror, red devil. Nicaraguan is terrorizing the green terror. Any tips? So my reaction initially with reading that off was a 75-gallon, even with smaller fish, smaller cichlids, like younger ones, is probably too small. Like a red devil in a 75-gallon tank is going to be trouble. Surprising that it's the Nicaraguan that is the one initially causing the issue, but either way, when you add those types of cichlids in a 75-gallon, it's not going to end well. So I would recommend removing the aggressor, but also looking into getting a bigger tank. I think a red devil alone would need at least a 90-gallon, probably more like a 125 as an adult, and that's just by themselves because they get huge and aggressive. So just keep that in mind. You might need a tank divider in the meantime, do something to stop that aggression, but the tank is probably too small for those guys. Mike said, I added a disc bubbler for my Matoro Stingray. He spends more time riding the bubbles than rearranging the sand. That's really smart. So I found that with my Stingray. My Stingray is so awesome. I love him. He's way more active than I thought he would be. And one of the things he does, it goes up to the brim of the tank and like claps at the tip of the water, and bubbles are kind of coming down, and I can just hear him all the time. And he's surfing the panels. He's so active, it's crazy. I'm hoping he does the same thing in this tank. I do have a bubbler in the back, so maybe he'll do that in this tank once he goes in there. But yeah, they're fascinating fish, so interactive and personable, and the eyes on top of their head, they're just always like so observant. It's almost like octopus, like with their eyes just watching you. Not that I've kept an octopus, but you know what I mean. Equity said, huge fan of Imperial Tropicals, only place I buy my fish and always come healthy. Yep, I've probably, not even exaggerating, have ordered 15 times from Imperial Tropicals. So, yeah. And never had a dead on arrival, never had a fish that I was not happy with. And I would say they also have the biggest variety of fish and stocking. I think it's just the facility is huge, and they're in Florida, so they're just a massive operation. So it's a really good spot for an online order. You might be able to find more like specific exotic fish elsewhere, but I mean, it's always, you look on the site, see what's available, and you can go from there. Bryce asked, no turtles. Not at the moment. I mean, me personally, I would love a fly river turtle. I think they're like one of the coolest animals on the planet, but even a 500-gallon tank isn't big enough long term for them. So unless I get like a big pond built in here, I probably won't do a turtle or like some of the smaller species. I think Alec and Quinn have interest in doing maybe like a red-eared slider or something smaller and making it an ecosystem with maybe some African cichlids in the bottom or something. Always something being planned between the three of us. You should see our group chat. Mount Anubias, there are other things in the water than nitrates. Yeah. Did I say otherwise? I think he was just trying to be rude, but... Anthony Torres, do you ever medicate your main tank with Metroplex? I don't do much preventative medication. I try not to use meds as much as possible. I do use aquarium salt on occasion. So if I do see any type of abrasion or cut or issue on the outside of them, sometimes if I do a water change, I'll add some aquarium salt as a preventative measure there. But I really don't use a ton of meds unless I see an issue with the fish. So in the past, I've had like an internal parasite in one tank, and I've used Paraclins and, basically the same thing as Metroplex. And, those are really good things to have on hand, because once you see that they're not eating and they have like the white stringy poop, it's like the worst thing you could see. Any recommendations on live plants and an Oscar Geo setup? With Geophagus, it could work. Oscars can be tough even on the easiest plants. I would say your best bet is probably Anubias or Java Fern, but Oscars, they'll pick and move them around. They'll bite at it. They don't always eat the plants, but yeah, they're really rough on them. Geophagus are pretty good. They will uproot rooted plants, but if you have Anubias or Java Fern that's kind of like tied to driftwood above the tank or above the substrate, it can work. Sometimes the geos will grab sand and kind of like dust over the leaves, but as long as you have good flow in the tank, sometimes the plants will do fine, just like in my 150 right now. G1 said, hope you're well. Out of interest, how long have you been in the hobby? So I would say seriously, like really hardcore in the hobby, it's been about 7.5, 8 years, but I've been in the hobby my whole life. Like I had a goldfish tank throughout college. We had an aquarium with a chocolate cichlid growing up as kids. We had angelfish, things like that. So we've been we could say we've been in the hobby our whole lives, but I mean, realistically, where we've been like really into it and creating content and educating people and things like that, it's been about 7 or 8 years. But it's been like hardcore years, because we're not only keeping many tanks, but we are also creating content, and we never want to put information out there that is not accurate or helpful. So we do a ton of research, talking with experts, talking with other creators who have done things, and talking between the three of us. So the three of us have shared knowledge and are always talking about fish. So that's kind of how it all kind of comes together, even though some people would say they've been in the hobby longer, and that's totally cool. that's just our backstory. Scott Edwards said 100 Troy. Thanks. Eli said, what's a good reliable brand for a 150-gallon tank that's not insanely expensive? That one's tough because you could get kind of the manufacturer, like the mass-produced ones that are at some stores that are going to be like, what are they, Marine Lands usually, Neptune sometimes, or Planet Aquariums. Marine Lands in general, I would never buy. Like we had one of those leak, a 90-gallon before, so no thanks. Custom aquariums and like custom tanks or water boxes, those are all going to be really expensive, but they're awesome and they will be built to last. So yeah, maybe that Planet Aquarium, Neptune range. I don't know if Red Sea makes some decent tanks, but Fiji Cube, it's tough because they are insanely expensive, but you do get what you pay for. And the peace of mind that I have in my custom aquariums is key. You know, like I lose sleep over my plywood tank, the one that I built, because I'm always worrying like, oh, what if I didn't do this right, or what if the silicone isn't right, or something like that. But my custom aquariums, I have no worry about. Those things are built to last. It's a lifetime warranty. Hopefully that answered your question. Loan Shark said people can't understand that water changes are part of the hobby, and changes that are 99% of the time you gotta do them. Yeah. Yep. Like you said, a lot of the time the people that are commenting that water changes are not necessary are either they don't know the context, that's the biggest issue, or they want to hear a single piece of advice that will let them be lazy. You know, like they want to hear the one line that says, if you set up this thing, then you don't have to do a water change. And they're like, okay. But then they don't understand the context. And then they comment rude stuff. And then it's just, so yeah, I'll make a video. So every time I get a comment like that, I'll just comment back with the video. And then if they still don't understand, then I'm done. Robert said, even Lucas LRB Aquatics suggests water changes, even though he doesn't do filters. Yeah, I mean, everything that LRB Aquatics has said is correct. Like, the problem is when people watch that content, or Father Fish, or there's others that do similar stuff, like, good for them. I love seeing them getting views and putting information out there. It's the people that don't watch the full video, don't understand the context, and then they come to channels like mine that's just showing how to do a water change if you're going to do it, and they don't understand the context. That is all I'm saying, because LRB is correct in what he's doing, and he explains it most times why he's doing it, and I explain why I would do it in a different instance. So yeah, it's the context that is key, and sometimes people just miss that. So. And I met LRB Aquatics at Fins and Fury, the boxing event, 2 months ago, and he's an awesome dude. Like we could talk fish for hours. Big Feast Bates said, when are you guys gonna do an all Central American tank with some tank busters? Well, we actually have started the process of that. If you see Alex's latest video, he has his 220, which has a lot of Vieja and some Central Americans that are already pretty big, but they're going to get bigger. So go check out his videos, because those are going to be awesome. And it's our first real attempt at a big Central American tank. We've had many other Central Americans, like either as pet fish or in like a small community like Jack Dempsey's and things like that. I've had Cuban cichlids lately. So DP Aquatics said, what's your dream fish? That is a great question. I might be getting it probably next month, so I don't want to say it. I mean, I also have the stingray already, which was one of my dream fish. I will say I'm getting my dream cichlid probably next month, so it's going to be awesome. Do you have any recommendation for a budget light setup for that shimmer effect? I haven't really gotten the great shimmer effect from any LED light, like the strip lights. Like I think the Fluval Aqua Skies are pretty solid LED lights that I think they're like for a 75 gallon, like 4-foot one, I think it's like 120 bucks, which is still expensive. They're all expensive these days. But I think that's a pretty decent light if you want to go on the cheaper end. But there's not many that would provide the shimmer. That is kind of like the Kessels, the AI Primes, maybe some of the cheaper puck style lights. You can find some on Amazon, like I think the Asta 20 or something on Amazon. That does a little bit of that, but you may not get the full spread of light to like the corners and the top. Hopefully that answered the question. Eli said, thanks, I'm looking for a 150, but they're hella money. Yeah, once you get up in the plus 125 gallon or larger, the tanks are super expensive and all the costs are just, it piles up, so I understand it's a lot. Hopefully it's worth it to you, and everyone has hobbies that are expensive, so hopefully that's how you can sell it. Sorry, I'm trying to get through a lot of questions. These are great. Keep them coming, guys. I'm going to try and go for a little bit longer here. Do you guys prefer length in tanks or width? Really good question. So, for example, a 120 gallon, which is 4 by 2 by 2, or a 125, which is 6 by 1.5 by 2. In almost all cases, I would do the 125, not because it's 5 gallons more, but because of the length. I feel like the 125 gives more areas for territory and to get away from each other. If you think of it on separate ends of the tank, they're almost 6 feet away from each other, whereas the 120, I love the depth of tanks, but in this instance, I would prefer the length. If you're just doing like a wet pet, like a solo fish, I would maybe do the 120, just because then they can have a little more space to do whatever they want front to back. Luke's Fishing, you are one of my favorite YouTubers, and I'm very happy to be here before the stream hits 100 viewers. I appreciate that, Luke. Yeah, like all of you guys probably heard at the beginning, or if you've just joined, I'm just starting up our YouTube Live, so we're going to be doing many more of these. Some of them will be like this, vertical, some will be horizontal, and some will be with my brothers. So Alec and Quinn will both join me occasionally on these, or they'll do it themselves. And you know, definitely want to give more like live updates like this and be able to, you know, talk to you guys more consistently, because I do this on TikTok and Instagram all the time, but this is the first time I've really done it on YouTube. So hopefully you guys are finding value of this, or just like hanging out, because we're hopefully going to do it more. James asks, advice for opening aquatic store. I'm 16, but your mom's willing. So I've never done a store. Obviously I've never like considered starting up an aquatic store. I would say that's a tough one, because I think it's just having the best selection of fish available, because then people will buy the other dry goods things from you. But if your fish, if you don't have a good selection and they're not healthy fish, you'll definitely have a bad reputation soon. And I go to online retailers all the time because my local fish stores are not good enough. I mean, there's occasionally, like I like Beyond the Reef, I like Dat Cichlids, but there aren't enough good ones that I trust outside of those. So I go online and order fish. I would absolutely support those local fish stores if they did it correctly and had good fish that were healthy. I would go there. I would go out of my way to buy from them. So that would be my advice, is just to be as good as you can with the fish that you stock. Sultan said, bro, your fish aquarium is cool. Thank you. Appreciate that. Hopefully you find some inspiration from the setups, or you just like watching the fish swim around. That's all cool. How soon will we see the stingray in a plywood aquarium? That will likely happen in a couple weeks, and the video shortly after that. So right now, a little sneak peek or behind the scenes aspect of this is I had 2 subscribers from YouTube reach out, and they came over and picked up a few of the electric blue acara. So it was a bittersweet moment because I gave away some of the electric blue acara that I had grown up, but I knew I couldn't take all 12 of them and put them like in the plywood tank or not. So I gave a handful away this week. I filmed it, so it'll be in a video, I think, coming up. And then the handful of electric blues I have left will be coming with the stingray into this tank. So I'll probably have 5 or 6 total in this tank after it's all said and done with the stingray. So that'll be really cool. And then the 180 will be restocked. And that's what I'm not revealing yet. I am so excited about. I did tell Mike and Will from Six Psyche about it, so hopefully they don't tell anyone. Where can we find blueprints to build a plywood tank like yours? I literally filmed the entire series. You can find the playlist on our homepage. Starts from the very beginning. There's 9 episodes with a 10th to come as the series finale. You can see start to finish. I tried to document it as best as I can. I didn't have many like handyman carpentry skills going into this. I just researched Aquarium Domain, King of DIY. There are a couple others, Riff Waters, and kind of combine those elements to make the best decisions I could. I would say the few things that were more challenging, and I was lucky to get right on this tank, was probably the cutting of the plywood panels. I somehow cut them perfectly straight, and they, fit together almost perfectly. If you even go off just like a couple millimeters, it's gonna be really tough to fill that void with glue or screws. So just take your time on cutting the plywood panels, I would say. And then you can also learn from my mistakes with some of the other things I did. I still want to cut off like some of the silicone, which people always comment on. I'm just scared to do it, to be honest. But yeah, I probably will soon. Wiggity whack bit. Brian in Tampa, love the channel. Yeah, appreciate it, man. Thanks for tuning in and watching. Really appreciate it. Cichlids Tropical. I just started the hobby. I got my first tank 4 months ago. I have 0 deaths so far. That's incredible. Congratulations. I'm really happy for you. Like, most of the time, new fish keepers will have deaths early on because of the cycle or lack of knowledge of the cycle. The fact that you're 4 months in means you're probably in a cycled environment, and hopefully those fish are good to go. But yeah, awesome. Michael Lawson, hello. I just got home after a 5-hour drive from Aquashella Daytona, and a trunk load of fish and aquarium supplies. Have been to an... Oh, that's awesome, man. It's really cool that you got so much from Aquashella. I hope it was fun. We weren't able to make it to Daytona because Alec and Quinn are both teachers and coaches. I don't know what my Severum's doing, but Alec and Quinn are both teachers and coaches, and they are just too busy right now. We weren't able to make it down to Daytona, but I went to Dallas this year in May, and we'll likely go to at least one of them next year, hopefully, and we'll definitely let the channel know as we decide that. Watson's Aquatics, yeah, perfect. He mentioned for the shimmer for a cheaper light, the Asta 120, A120 on Amazon, I believe. That could be a good option. I think it's looked good on his tank. That's probably the best budget option for a shimmer. And Buna Bum Higer has some decent puck style lights. I've not tried them personally. I have tried their LED strip lights, and I'll just say they weren't my favorite. But maybe their puck lights are. Manuel, I love your bala shark. Yeah, he's probably been one of the stars of the show here. There he is, up there. But he is awesome. 13, 14 inches already. Bruce is incredible. Boom and bam, I can't wait for my 275-gallon, 8-foot tsunami acrylic tank to get here. That's awesome. Yeah, back in the question about big tanks, if you want to get an acrylic tank, there are some good ones. Fish Tank Direct is where I got mine, and it's still expensive for sure, but it's a really good acrylic tank. But it sounds like Tsunami acrylic might be good. I've never personally had them. Have you ever considered keeping a colony of Tropheus species? Yeah. Absolutely. It's been on our list of things to do for sure. Coin almost did it in one of his tanks for his classroom, but he's going to be going to a slightly different technique and setup. So that's another hint. Really excited for that, but we will definitely do trophies at some point. Your tanks always look great. Thank you, Amuna Bone. Appreciate that. What is the best place to order your fish? That's a really good question. So, some of my favorites, Imperial Tropicals, we talked about earlier, has a really good selection, but Tangled Up in Cichlids is a really good spot for some Central and South American cichlids. Global Fish Co. is great. Beantown Aquatics for African cichlids, Cunningham Tropicals, Tampa Bay cichlids, Ron cichlids, Snake River cichlids I heard is good, but we've never used them before. I have my order tomorrow coming from a local fish store actually, but in Milwaukee. So I'll explain in the video. But yeah, I have a fish delivery coming tomorrow, so I can't wait for that. Like I mentioned, one of the fish is going to be for this tank, and it's kind of rare. Can't wait. 6 Psyche's on the... I mentioned Mike and Will earlier. They know my plan for the 180. They were just here last week checking out the tanks. And if you guys haven't been on 6 Psyche's YouTube, I would go type that in, Sick, like Cichlid, Psyche, type it in, go follow them. They're great guys with more content coming out, and they have some beasts of cichlids. They're Black Nasty, they're Red Tiger Moda, Red Terror. Go check them out. David said, hey Troy, love your collection of cichlids. I just started back up again a few months ago on fish keeping. You guys are great. Love that, man. If you have any questions at all, you can always reach out or comment on videos, and we try to give thorough advice when we can. But it's awesome that you're doing research and watching fish videos like the rest of us. Let's see, what's your favorite type of cichlid, like peacocks and Buna? I'm probably South American cichlids first. I love all cichlids though, but I think because Severums are probably my favorite, Oscars are right there, Geophagus and Electric Blue Acara are probably like my top 4, and they're all South Americans. I love angelfish and discus, man. So South America is kind of my thing, but yeah, it's just really hard to pick from it, to be honest. All right, so last couple questions here, and then we'll split a bit on here, over an hour. Wow. What's your favorite type of cichlid? Oh yeah, I already answered that. Love the Tank Pro. I'm currently growing out a Dovai pair, 230 gallons, big enough. 230 gallons is probably big enough for a pair. It will be tight, and you'll have to monitor the aggression, especially around breeding time with the male and female. You might need a tank divider at times. You know, some people, like if you go on forums and things like that, which I don't recommend doing because it's toxic, but some people will be like, no way, Dovais need like thousands of gallons. You know, like those people are reasonable. I would say a 230 is probably okay. It's not the best, but it's probably better than most people. Bro, do you have Midas cichlids? No, not at the time, not at the moment, but absolutely love Midas and Red Devils. We'll definitely have them at some point. When you move the stingray to the 500, will you need to remove some decor and fish to make room? Yep, so in the last video on the plywood tank, I mentioned this, that I'll likely remove a handful of the rocks, especially the rocks in the middle, a few rocks around the driftwood. The driftwood and plants aren't going anywhere. But yeah, I'll remove some of the decor because this give them enough space to swim around, but there's more space in this tank than it even looks because of the depth. Like I mentioned, it's 44 inches front to back, and on camera it doesn't pick that up. Even with the rocks in there right now, it would be plenty of floor space for him, but I will be removing some of the rocks. Jim's Fish said, your channel convinced me to get my Jack Dempsey. I love that. So I'll give Quinn credit for that, although I edited the videos, so I'll take some credit. But yeah, Jack Dempsey's are incredible. Yeah, we'll always have at least one. Quinn has one in his classroom right now that's a beast. Let's see, last question. Finally got my, yeah, that's not a question. Titan Aquatic said, do you have plans for getting more tanks in the future? It's a great question to end on because absolutely, we always are getting new tanks. We are always upgrading. I'm getting a new tank this week. It's not a huge tank, but it's a small upgrade. I'm getting a 40-gallon breeder for my fish room. I'm getting probably a new big, tall custom aquarium for the entryway in my basement. I am setting up 2 new aquariums for my office for a bookshelf aquarium setup. Quinn has 2 new aquariums set up. Alec is setting one up right now. So yeah, we're totally crazy and in this hobby, always growing and upgrading. So yes, absolutely, we'll be getting some new tanks, new fish coming tomorrow, new fish coming next week. It's going to be crazy, but it's going to be awesome. And I can't wait to share all those videos and updates with all of you. I hope you guys enjoyed, for everyone that stuck around to this point, hope you enjoyed this impromptu live. We are going to be doing many more of these, and I can't wait for that. So talk to you soon, and keep an eye out for those new videos coming very, very soon.